poison. All right, everybody, welcome back to another. Oh, we got to run the graphic. That's right. Let's do the thing. How professional. Welcome back, everybody. This is a podcast, one of many on the internet, where people yapping on YouTube. This one's called We're Fucked, or I like to call it We're Up Shit's Creek with a Turd for a Paddle. Today we've got Adam, as always, Save Sheik Jara now on Instagram. People know him. And of course, Angie Bitar, extremely cool human being. What's up, you guys?
Well, let's see. What is up? Where can we start? Well, the UAE was hit with a drone attack shortly before we hopped on here on a nuclear power plant in, I don't know how to pronounce it, Baraka. And I think when I saw that news online, there was an inordinate amount of people saying that it was an Israeli false flag. I think people need to understand that that is not how the dynamics of the GCC are working right now. Israel does not need to stage a false flag to sow division. The UAE has left OPEC. It has, thrown in its cards with Israel and the United States. There is a lot of tension between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Tel Aviv is not trying to get the Emirates to do something stupid. It's already doing those things for it. I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in on that, but
well, what the Chinese say is never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. I love this. Yeah. Yeah. What's the news in Angie's world? What's going on in the Middle East? What's going on with you?
Honestly, not much that's new. Syria is in administrative hell, I'm afraid. There's been like some swapping of some of the ministers that I'm waiting to see what that behavior. I think it was the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Information were swapped by Shara in the past week. And it's one of those like, that's weird, but we don't know why yet. There's also, I cannot remember her last name off the top of my head. The young woman Batul who was abducted and has been essentially indoctrinated into whatever. I feel disheartened to call it like Sunni Islam because I don't believe that that's what this is. But the Syrian administration has all but like refused to show her to her parents or allow them to confront her or see her in any way. She's been questioned once without her parents present, and that's kind of it. And then a Sunni sheikh issued a fatwa that she should not be returned to her family because they are non-believers. It's really crazy stuff. I feel really sick in my stomach, so forgive me for laughing, but it just feels very, very unreal.
What's her name?
Let me pull it up and drop it.
She was.
I'll text a few links here.
She was Alawite, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But
yeah, doesn't get any easier.
Well, that's been a recurring thing for those of you who don't know on the stream. Is Alawite women and girls have specifically been targeted by Golani's thugs to be trafficked for their fighters. And the Reuters report said that this is coming from an initiative from Damascus.
Yeah, I think that we're living in times like they did in World War II. It's like there's lawlessness and debauchery and all the good stuff.
When ethnic cleansing, I think, is what's really important to call out, is that it is an explicit method of ethnic cleansing and, I mean, genocide, particularly following the series of massacres that have occurred and continued across the coast, in particular targeting Alawites. So I think there's like there's a dynamic there that like it's not just policy in the same way that the Israeli genocide against Palestinians is not a policy choice, it's an outright, I mean, like decision to annihilate a people. And this is just another way of doing that.
Well, they've also been displacing not only Alawite, but also Christian families too, right? They have been booting them from their homes.
It's been less, it's right now been more threatening than direct displacement. There have been cases in, I believe, Malula, particularly immediately following the downfall of the former regime, where land was just being bought up en masse. And it was, they were essentially creating like situations of coercion, sometimes outright threats, or just making high incentives for the individuals who could sell their homes and leave, like who had an alternative place to go. I personally know several Christian families throughout Wadi Nasara that live in diaspora or live in Lebanon, for example, live in a city. If they were put in a position where it was like, we sell this house, sell this house. If they didn't need to keep that house, or if they didn't have someone willing to go and like kind of put a foot down and live in it, a lot of them ended up selling it and just swallowing that. Like there was a lot of coercive, I think, real estate entrepreneurship. If you want to that.
This is historical. This is historical. I lived in a house in Germany that was one of these. We make it uncomfortable for them, then we make them leave, and then we, pass these laws to make it whatever they can do to make it bureaucratic, and then to force them out. Sometimes it's like eminent domain. They say, oh, well, we need this because we're building a whatever. It's ethnic cleansing.
And well, wasn't there also something, I saw the Syrian Justice Archive posted today. There was what happened? There were women who were trying to institute or promote the niqab in several cities. What was happening?
This has happened a few times, and it's not really clear. It's just mass campaigns promoting the wearing of, for those who don't know, the niqab, or the head to toe Islamic covering, which just like has never been a part of the Syrian fashion culture. Like that just, Syria has religious areas that are particularly more religious than, I mean, like Damascus is probably quite progressive compared to an area like Homs, which isn't particularly religious either, and is, I would say, like not majority Alawite by any means, but has a larger proportion of Alawites there. Like there's just pockets of more conservative, modest communities. We have kind of an implicit bias when it comes to terms like conservative and liberal, but I'm talking about like the presentation of their religion and their adherence to doctrine. There was a really wide pendulum swing across Syria, never swang that far that you would see actually like multiple women moving through, but it is essentially just these kind of like pamphlet campaigns. There's one case, I believe last year in Banyas, where they were like kind of harassing people, like following women around and really trying to push it on them. But up until now, it like, for me, it's like, who's funding this? Who's printing these flyers off? Who is facilitating the buses to probably move these women? I don't know. There's like definitely a lot of, and I've been saying this since day one, that there are going to be and have been a lot of moving parts towards the like intentional demographic shift within Syria. There's an intentional shift to really change the like foundational cloth of who the people residing on that land are, because they need to like design it now. They're redesigning what will be the new neo-colonial outpost, and we can't have any people there that don't fit the bill or that white people might sympathize with. God forbid a Christian get caught in the crossfire and then we have to answer to like some German nun, or that's the thinking right now, I really think.
What's the idea with Golani as far as economics? What's he going to be? Is it going to be neoliberalism? Is it going to be, are they just going to, or is it going to be the puppet state that they hollow out like a country in Africa? What's the plan?
More than likely both. I think that it's going to depend on how useful they see Syria being and like the Lebanon colonial tourist spot perspective. Because that really is what Lebanon was like. Like it was the Paris of the Middle East, the Switzerland, actually, the Switzerland of the Middle East is what people frequently called Lebanon. It's like, babe. Oh, girl, do they know how to take a side? Never the same one, but yeah, there's like, I think that historically, if I were to say like history is the predictor of future behavior, then yeah, they're probably going to work towards a hollowing out. But everything he has done so far is giving very neoliberal, almost venture capitalist vibes. He actually, I think, very recently was in talks with leaders in Lebanon, specifically about negotiating economic boundaries and trade and borders. And I'm like, borders?
Also, at a time when Lebanon has no economy, it's just sort of like a
What
weird.
do you mean at a time, Adam? Point to the time on the timeline where Lebanon had the economy in question.
Well, but especially in the post, port blast world that Lebanon has been living in. But yeah, point taken.
Ironically, I would say in the kind of like Black economy, the non-formal economy, there is an argument to be made that war times are probably a lot more active economically for Lebanon because of the amount of diaspora money that enters without tourists actually also entering with it. I have no evidence to back that up. That's kind of me just like
No, this is absolutely correct across all historical precedents. If you're in economic trouble, start fucking killing people, and everything will work itself out. You'll make some money in the meantime. Get people riled up.
Lebanon is particularly like people, I think, fail to really understand that Lebanon is running on expats' money. If Lebanon was in Syria's situation where you were not able to like PayPal your people money anymore or do like mail, if they were in that situation, that country would crumble fast. It is foreign money running those streets.
Yeah,
in
did
a
you
very
see?
literal way.
Did you see the big video? They said, "Oh, they got the credit cards now," and they made a big news thing out of it. Oh, they were suffering for so long, but now they have the credit cards. It's so good. Everything's gonna be okay now.
So I know someone she's an English teacher in Iran. She's American, and she was trying to explain to all of her Iranian students because they were like, Syria got MasterCards. Like, when can we get MasterCards? And she had to be like, guys, it's not worth it. Trust me. Do you know what happened for them to get there? You don't. It's not worth it. Like, I mean, even with Lebanon, I remember, I think Sharmeen Nardwani said this on the Cradle once, like, when you import just like a foreign good, you have to pay the duty on it. And it can be insane, even if it's especially if it's an American product, which again begs the question, there is no industry in Lebanon right now. So why is it that, like, if she tried to enter, I think with a Chinese phone, and all the officials were like, well, we've never seen this before. So you can just go, I guess, because they were used to, someone coming with like an iPod, Jesus Christ, iPhone. I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to get a video of them with their credit cards. They're so happy. And the national news is very excited about it.
I have to
say, I mean, to be unsanctioned.
Listen, for people who don't know, like from a very small perspective, I need you to imagine the inflation rate is also at the point. Put yourself in the perspective of like the American.
Uh-oh. She froze.
She froze. You're frozen, Angie.
Oh no, she's just talking.
Value to the point. Oh no.
You might need to start again. You froze.
Yeah, you froze up.
Oh no. Am I back? Are we good?
Yeah.
Where did I cut off?
And you're about to talk about inflation when we think about the American dollar is what we last heard.
Oh, well, like, just imagine you're living your normal life. You can no longer use your credit cards. You have to carry all your cash on you. And also, the $100 bill has been devalued to the point of like the nickel. So think about how many $100 bills you need to carry with you to go buy milk, buy groceries for like a meal or two. It's like embarrassing to think we have videos where it's like, I don't know, like some rap song about being a millionaire or like having 100 bands or something like that. And we're just whipping out, we're paying for 2 smoothies. We are paying for 2 smoothies. And it's like, that is 46,000 Syrian pounds. Like, that's actually a very, very small thing that is so petty to think about in the scale of like imperialism. But imagine that being your daily life, and then suddenly you're like, I can pay with a card again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but is there any, for all the excitement of the master, like what is driving the excitement of the MasterCard if at the end of the day, you still don't have the funds, like 90?
It's
can get out. Like, people can see the way out now, just in the sense of like, I can work online. I can work remotely. There's a chance I can apply to universities in places that might allow me to study remotely or help me sponsor my the average Syrian between the age of probably like 15 and 30 is not planning a future there right now.
I wonder if Golani is prepared for the brain drain, or what little is left to drain.
That's the thing. There's not really, like, if we were in a situation where Golani got in and brought people in and actually announced some sort of plan for the transition, a plan of reconciliation that had something addressing the level of brain drain Syria has had, because it's like bad. It's really, really bad. You're like one doctor per village, guy. That's not sustainable. And a lot of them are working privately because that's where the money is. So like surgeons who were surgeons in the military and are at the highest skill level and able to perform, because for people who are not contextualized within Middle East military, like to elevate yourself in any Middle Eastern military, sans corruption, you needed to be elevating yourself also in terms of like educational degree, experience level. So a lot of the people who would elevate their status in civic duty were also people who were lawyers, engineers, doctors, et cetera, et cetera. Many doubling up on those. Like, people had nothing but time. So there's just a real lack. Like, we have things to rebuild. There's one singular artist working on all of Palmyra.
Just to be clear, Palmyra.
And they're looting it.
Palmyra, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the place, the historic Roman site that was destroyed by ISIS, correct?
This is my little Syrian pride. Yes, it is. It's not Roman. Palmyra is the indigenous kingdom ruled by Queen Zenobia, who is actually one of the only leaders in military history to stand up to the Romans and win for a period of time. So
My mistake.
No. We hold her very close. I understand. But yes, it is. It's also the place where Khalid al-Assad was killed and beheaded for refusing to reveal the location of many precious artifacts, which are now being looted by like the average Syrian with 2 brain cells to rub together.
And that's not even out of like some theological fanaticism. That's just for like economic necessity. Oh God, we shouldn't be laughing.
You can't you can't just come on my show and make up names, Queen Zenobia or whatever.
I never heard of this. As her for several Halloweens, Chris. I was like, I want to be Beauty and the Beast, and my mom's like, no, you're gonna be Queen Zenobia again.
That's cool.
How old were you when you were like, I'm going to be Queen Zenobia for Halloween?
No, it was very much. I think I actually wanted to be Sleeping Beauty at that point. I was like, I would really love to be Sleeping Beauty, and my mom was like, you know who also wore a blue dress? I She finally puts me in the whole outfit, which she made by hand. It was gorgeous. And I was like, this doesn't look like a Disney princess. And she's like, no, because you're a queen.
So in at least one of these cases, this was not like a consensual
No.
Halloween
No.
costume.
I was young though. I would say like kindergarten or first grade.
That's impressive. That's impressive. That's pretty cool.
So when you went to kindergarten that day, everyone was like, "Oh, tell us what you are." Someone's like, "Oh, I'm Snow White. I'm Sleeping Beauty. I'm Zenobia."
Palmyra.
But I wanted to be Shrek, but this is what I had.
The Avenger.
No, and then there's another kid who's like, I really wanted to be Batman, but I guess I'm Saladin instead.
I always think of the one, I don't know if you guys, this is like old Twitter. I remember this in my heart and soul, but one of my mutuals posted a picture of her from a very, very old Halloween where her mom had dressed her up as a hookah. And she's got like the tip on and
See, thank God, no, like the kindergarten teacher probably didn't know who that was, because if somebody came to school dressed as like a pack of cigarettes, CPS would be called. Like,
yeah.
I love my culture, guys.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's nothing. I'm white trash. So I grew up very, very poor. And when I wanted to be like Hulk or Spider-Man or one of these things, first grade, second grade, my mom looked around and said, well, we don't have much. So she sent me to school with a bathrobe and a towel and like a scrub brush. And she's like, you're a bather. Tell them you're a bather. And, and I came with my little step stool, my brush, and my, the towel on the head and we were poor.
Bather, I'm like someone who works the Turkish baths. Like, what is that even? What is that as a profession?
Well,
exactly?
my mom used to say, when it came to like buying Halloween costumes, she says, how about I shove a 2x4 up your ass and paint you brown and you can go as a fudge sickle? This is true. This is what she said to me.
How old were you?
Oh, 8, 5. I grew up rough. I grew up fast.
Whew.
Yeah,
like it.
That was a rough Halloween.
I thought for a split second that was going the Hugh Hefner route, and I was like, "That's really inappropriate." But it was so much better than Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But I want to ask another Syria-related question though. Because I saw something, there was some page, I forget where, that was sympathetic to the ousting of Assad and heralded the glorious revolution or whatever. They recently expressed some disappointment that Golani seems to be cutting a deal with a lot of the same, I don't know if oligarchs is the right word, but like businessmen that Assad dealt with. And you can tell me if my analysis here is incorrect. It does feel like the neoliberal transition that Assad tried to oversee in a desperate attempt to just restore the economy or bring the economy into the unipolar world system, Golani is doing both because he works for those same masters and because, again, what is the alternative at this point? Like, I don't know if that's a correct way of thinking about it or not, but I did want to ask you.
I would compare Bashar al-Assad's like last 5 years. His like first, I don't know, pre-war. Bashar al-Assad pre-war is late USSR. And
okay.
Golani is what would have happened to Russia if we had picked their like if the US government had picked their president.
Okay. So Yeltsin. What you're saying is Golani is basically Boris Yeltsin.
Yeah.
Minus the drunkenness.
I mean, Golani feels like he is less calculated than that on everyone's part. Like, no one really expected him. I don't think the US or Turkey really expected to have to put him in power. But at a certain point, they were like, fuck, shave him, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, change his clothes. We got to work on something.
Put him in a suit. Have him watch girls dancing to
Missy Elliott.
Missy Elliott, yeah.
But yeah, by the way, Machiavelli actually talks about this. He says when they push one of their people up out of the pit, then you grab him and you fling him up to the villa, and you and that's what they did. They manicured him and put him out on the stage and told him, "Hey, you're going to get really wealthy if you just give us what we want."
For those who don't know, there was once a bounty on this man's head by the U.S. because of the terrorism he enacted.
Because he would actually tear the heads off of other people. Yes.
Yeah. There it is. The ultimate transformation.
It's the Mar-a-Lago makeover, guys.
Bounty.
What?
It was a big, like, it wasn't small. It was several $1 million.
No, yeah, it was upwards of like 2 million. Because again, he had taken over Idlib with his fellow, Salafis from everywhere, from Kyrgyzstan to Xinjiang to everywhere, and it was well known this dude was not popular. He was really just there to spread the,
Every major organization that deals with like non-state armed groups or terrorist groups or anything of the sort, like, has profiled Hayat Tahrir al-Sham as a dangerous group with dangerous ideologies, particularly towards women. It was bad. It was really bad. I remember when I was writing the report on the SNHR, there was I was citing sources on briefs, explainers on what Hayat Tahrir al-Sham was, that had been written the year before, or even the year of, the year of 2023 when the regime fell. And all of them were terrifying group. Can't trust them. Cannot trust them. Not with women. Bad for women. Bad for children. We're scared. We're worried.
Well, that's why they changed their name. They went to Turkey, and I mean, this is what I heard a lot from folks who are traditionally Sunni in the diaspora. They're like, well, can't somebody change? Can't somebody have a change of heart? It's what this. It made me think.
My issue really is would you do is that okay for a murderer? Jeffrey Dahmer hits you with change your heart.
But to be fair, if Jeffrey Dahmer said he was a born again Christian and started,
sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm all better now, guys.
I'm an abolitionist. I really am an abolitionist. But I think there's a perspective to be had on the taking of human life, particularly in a context that is non-defensive at all. That I'm what's going on?
There are some people that just need to be destroyed. I don't know, but then it gets murky about who it is and why. But yeah, guys that got their wires crossed,
I'd say
Jeffrey Dahmer.
If you look into Al Qaeda is a pretty good litmus test for, do these people deserve some kind of forgiveness? And I'd say anyone affiliated with a group like that is pretty safely a scumbag who does not deserve
Yeah.
And I also just if we tabled the concept of forgiveness, because as a Paulo Freire girl who believes in re-education and pedagogy, sure, maybe people could be brought back into the realm of reality. That fast? He left Idlib, came to Damascus, and drank one, he had a sip of the Damascene water and was oh, St. Peter touched this. That was all it took.
Yep.
It is.
He's gonna be at the Wailing Wall next, crying on that fucking thing.
I do think there's a tendency to sort of oversell the, especially in the people who get it, the people who understand this man is an Al Qaeda, Turkey, NATO, Qatar stooge. I think there is a tendency to oversell the relationship he has with Israel. Israel hates him. Israel does not trust him because they learned very quickly that an Islamist group that you maybe count on fracturing with your enemies can actually turn against you. So they hate Golani. It's not because they prefer Assad at all. Let's be clear about that. Assad was never a Zionist asset, which is a very bizarre claim. I see every Golani and Al Qaeda apologist making on Instagram, but like Israel does not like him. They don't trust him. I think if anything, Golani wants to be closer to Israel, and Israel is the one who's like, no, fuck you.
100% the dynamic, by the way. Which I also, though, I imagine is probably Golani's dynamic with every foreign power, because he relies on them to maintain his position.
But that Saudi doesn't, I mean, the Cradle had a really good report a few months ago. Saudi doesn't trust him. Saudi does not like him for this, much of the same reason I think Israel does, which is like, this guy is Al Qaeda. Why do we think he can bring any kind of stability? It's not that these people prefer Assad. All these people, I mean, Assad tried to get in closer with the Gulf countries, but failed towards the end of his reign, at least.
When a guy is not going to go away, then they just fucking, put a uniform on him and put him to work instead. It's way easier. And they'd look, if he fucks up, they're going to go in there and, either overthrow him with some other radical Islamic group that they've funded or whatever's fashionable these days.
Well, the
Bolivia,
CIA wanted a moderate Sunni government, which I think by any stretch of the imagination, you can't classify Al Qaeda as a moderate entity.
They say that. There's a WikiLeaks from, I think, Hillary Clinton from 2010, pre-war, pre-Syrian civil war, where they're talking, I believe, about the then like early sanctions that were on Syria. And in that email, she's writing like the ideal scenario for Syria is the ousting of Assad and for sectarian divisions to divide the country so that it isn't under any like meaningful leadership. And I think that like the mouthpiece of moderate Sunni is what the rest of the Arab world needed to hear in order for it to be okay with like threatening the stability that was the Assad era. Because there was something to be said. Like, I remember Arab comedians making jokes in the early days of the Syrian civil war, where it's like, shit's bad when Lebanon is the most peaceful place in the area, like in the region. And yeah, it was really bad. It was a really bad time. So I think that they had to sell it as, no, the end goal is 100% like Western powers want, even the imperial powers want this like moderate Sunni vibe, which is still terrible for the rest of us, like still going to be an imperial asset, but not as drastic as what they actually wanted, which was just like the Libya case, unfortunately, like as much chaos as possible outside of the central kind of tourism spot where they want people to come from outside and they want them to see and they want them to kind of like take photos and create this like voyeuristic freedom so that they can exploit the lack of any actual freedom.
Yeah, this is interesting. And then this is, I always say Operation Timber Sycamore, but I just looked this up. There was the memo. It openly admit the primary objective of toppling the Syrian government was never about human rights, democracy, or protecting civilians. It explicitly states that the best way to help Israel deal with Iran's growing nuclear capability is help the people in Syria overthrow the regime of Bashar al-Assad.
Help the people in Syria is such a funny phrase in that sentence.
It makes imperialism okay if you're just helping somebody else. I mean, they want it, and
it's fine if it's only like 5 of them out of 50.
But that's the thing, is we inflate the numbers. That's all our job is now, is to inflate the numbers large enough to say 99% of Venezuelans like Machado more,
Well, we also should remember the role that the social media ecosystem plays in pseudo knowledge production, where people with just disproportionately large platforms who come from like a diaspora community because they live in the US and because they are amenable to most American foreign policy because they fled said country, they do help. I'm not saying they're in league with the CIA, but they do help to bolster a narrative in a manner that seems more organic than like watching CNN or MSNBC.
A part of this is when you leave too, you're kind of stuck in the moment you left in. I've encountered this a lot with my parents that like my dad left Syria in 2000 to start his residency, I believe, or to start his specialization. Um, and he's very much in his brain, even though we've been able to go back a few times since my parents received their citizenship, and I did too. Like we've been able to go back. He's still very much in his brain in the politics of the late 90s and 2000s of Syria. It's incredibly jarring for him. He did not enjoy. I don't think he was able to go back, unfortunately, until literally 2018, if not later. So that's 18 years. And then he was able to go, I believe, one or two other times in the years since that. Every time he's gone, it's not a pleasant experience. Like which it wouldn't be. It's not like we're there to see family. We're not there to go out and party and have a good time. But it's deeply dissonant for him because I can tell he still feels like this isn't the place that he grew up in, and he does not know it anymore. And I think that, giving a very good faith interpretation, I was lucky to not be in Syria for most of the frightening moments of the war and experience that directly. I was also lucky that at no point when I was in Syria, in times when it was treacherous, did I have to flee under any circumstances. So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a child or someone who was apolitical at the time that was put in the position of having to flee. You do get stuck in that mentality psychologically, for sure. That has to have a huge impact on how not only you see the world, but how you develop political thoughts and theories around your own homeland and what it means for that homeland to be repaired. So I make jokes about the fact that many in the region need shock therapy, me included. We're a deeply traumatized people in ways that are just really exploitable, are really susceptible to radicalization, are susceptible to exploitation, and are susceptible to things that are just as simple as poverty that make you susceptible to those things by proxy anyway.
Yeah. The Hutus and the Tutsis down there in Africa too. One does a genocide and then the other one does it back, and then it just is.
It's
violence becomes the culture, retribution becomes the culture.
Well, and just like how the Hutus and Tutsis were a colonial construct that really didn't necessarily exist before colonization.
Oh, we stoked this fire, yeah.
Yeah.
And then watched it burn. I don't know. That's a really unforgivable case in my eyes.
Yeah, well, there's plenty. There'll be plenty more too.
No, but I there is something to be said about the scars of colonialism in a way that, probably transcend.
It is very comical to me Rwanda was a key case when I was completing my master's degree. That was we study it to death because it's the one that I feel like Western nations kind of admit they dropped the ball on. Because it was recorded, it was on camera. They won't admit to anything if it isn't. And those categories of Hutu and Tutsi really were completely artificial. They were ascribed based on essentially whether or not you were an agricultural worker or whether or not you owned animals. That was the designation under colonial rule as to whether you would be designated as Hutu or Tutsi in a lot of cases. And a lot of cases were boundary defying, where in key moments of inflection during regime change, people were able to kind of not fully maybe throw themselves to the other side of that boundary, but become kind of in this gray in between area, to the point that when people are actually being killed throughout the genocide, Hutus are right there in the victims as well. It's a very jarring case of colonialism being inherited by the people. The violence of colonialism was very literally inherited by the people and then carried out by them against their own, which is totally what happens in the Middle East as well.
Yeah. Big politics preying on people's natural occurring xenophobia, which it would be nice to have a system that helped us cope with this, but our system is explicitly designed. We just did a thing with India today, like their anti-Muslim thing. It's just a way for neoliberalism to exist. You have to have an outgroup to go after and have unity in some way, shape, or form. And they always choose either nationalism or religion or something, like the best course of action for organizing a group of people in a society. The best they've come up with is like, well, let's get all the right colors together. We'll do color separation and that'll be okay. It's fascinating. It's fucking sad too.
Well, India is also a good case study for me whenever people want to try to measure, if communism, quote, doesn't work. I think India and China were pretty much on par in terms of their development in the 1940s. If anything, China was probably behind India because it was even more fractured than India was, and there wasn't the same colonial infrastructure. When you look at India today versus China today, the difference in terms of poverty, sheer poverty, is stark. The purchasing power parity in China vastly outweighs that of India, as does the GDP, of course. Obviously, India has a very large economy simply because of by sheer merit of its population, but like the way that China has been able to develop indigenously and while doing something as groundbreaking as launching a campaign to eradicate extreme poverty. Like in China, if you are a poor rural family, the party representative of your area has to write their name on your home, as well as what your income is, what they need to keep them accountable to make sure they lift you out of poverty. Whereas in India, it's heartbreaking when you go to some of these larger cities and you see the sheer destitution that some of these people live in. And then to see now Kerala, which was a communist stronghold for over a decade, falling to the BJP. I don't know the details behind that per se, but, I think the fact that, again, a far-right government is coming to power in a country that is just so technologically and economically and developmentally behind China fascinates me, because I do think if you want to, but also to be clear, as much as people say that Mao killed X amount of million people, more people died in India than did under Mao. And I'm not saying that is like a gotcha or a dunk, obviously any loss
Even
is terrible.
Even after colonialism, or after after Gandhi, did his thing, that was still even if you count pollution alone, these people are being slaughtered by their own. But you can't just slap that Chinese model on it. The Mao really paved the way for long, like all the institutions are geared in a way where you can't just switch these overnight. And so India is going to be trying to do this neoliberal thing because it's easy to do and siding with whatever. I've seen him hugging, he's hugging Netanyahu, he's hugging Trump. He's such a, charming guy, right-wing little short guy.
Well, and the BJP aficionados have this weird fetishization of Zionism and Israel as a project because of their Islamophobia. Like I remember when the war in Gaza started, there were all these Indian men on Twitter who were like, "Oh, I want to marry a beautiful Israeli woman," and I was just
it's because the Hindu Hutu movement is built off of Zion. It's like they just copied.
It's copy paste.
It's a very, in the same way that like BYU has a research center, like the Mormons are really into
Go back to the Mormons, people.
Sorry, just like it's them. To be fair, I'm pretty sure the Jehovah's Witnesses do as well. Yeah. Like I'm fairly certain that Jehovah's Witness leadership also has close ties to Israel. Like any of these movements that depend on kind of implanting the idea that like you are chosen, you are special, baby, come let me give you a little kiss on the divine forehead of yours. Yeah. Any of those have been following the playbook of like, dare I say, like the divine right of rule a little bit. Like I almost feel like it is that same like logic, that same linear logic that has allowed these people to And it makes them all friends. It's really fun. It makes them friends. It makes them hate the Pakistanis. Like, it's just,
But
it's great.
But I think
sound the same. You might as well just.
it's a recipe, right? It's a recipe for a delicious cake called Power and Control, and it has worked since the beginning of time, and it'll continue to work. Tell people that they're special. That's why we love sports so much. All this, circus and bread and circuses and stuff. We love to root for a team and cheer over something that none of us are really accomplishing. We're going to cheer, but we're on the team, and I don't know if we'll ever be cured of that.
Very much the vibe of like white liberals and leftists who came around to seeing Iran's side and will, post and cheer on the Iranian regime on social media and then clock into their like Lockheed Martin job 9 to 5.
Oh my God.
What do we do when NATO is under attack?
Celebrate! Pop bottles, baby!
No, we stand up and fight back. We join our local rally. No, but
finally a chance to be useful.
I want to just backpedal on one. This is a silly nitpick, but I want to say it on one thing about the Mormons. I honestly don't know about the institutional ties they have with Tel Aviv, but during the height of I have my own fucked up personal history with Mormonism. Okay, I was betrothed to a Mormon girl at
betrothed.
Young age.
How have we not discussed?
I'm they were good friends, family friends of ours, and then on her 7th birthday, she broke up with me. We were the same age because she said that because she's 7 now, she was a few months older than me. She's about to mature more than me because she's a girl and boys mature slower than
I'm sorry.
Never
mind.
That's actually true.
In hindsight, she wasn't wrong, so I was like, okay, that's fine. But
to clarify really quickly, Brigham Young University maintains their physical presence in Israel through the Jerusalem Center for Near Eastern Studies.
But dude, Mormons believe in the same I forget the specifics of the evangelical doomsday theosophy, where it's going to be if the Jews have to be in control of Jerusalem in order for Jesus to descend and give them all the choice to either convert or die.
No, I don't believe that they do.
Okay.
This is my belief based on, because it's not in their doctrine. I've read too much about this group. I know too much. So you must too. I don't believe it's a part of their doctrine because it would require them to be in Israel. To a certain extent, they believe they are Jews, but they believe they're more Jewish than the Jews because they are the only true remaining church.
See, that's the thing. When we talk about when we talk about the Christian alliance with Zionism and Israel, I feel like it's so surface level, it's so skeevy because it's really about who's actually deserves to be there. And I mean, I feel like the institutional ties, a lot of it is the archaeological component so that these Christian universities can excavate for things like
that is the goal of the Jerusalem Center for Near East Studies. Yeah. That is what they're doing, is looking for archaeological evidence
of whether we were here first or eight. Like I remember one Christian university touted about how they found evidence of the Exodus because they found what looked like a chariot wheel at the bottom of the Red Sea, which irrefutably proves that Pharaoh's army was drowned in the Red Sea when Moses let it slam shut in, that famous scene in the Ten Commandments. And there was another one where they claimed to find something belonging to Abraham, which is also universally accepted in the archaeological, consensus as being a mythological
the amount of the Old Testament that Orthodox and a lot of times even Catholic scholars will tell you is like metaphor.
My grandma, again, ardent Catholic, she went to a Bible study at one of her churches and she asked the teacher, how much of this is real? And the teacher, and I'll never forget this, said, all of it is true, and some of it actually happened.
Yeah.
Which, but that's like what she's saying. Like the Vatican recognizes that evolution is real. There's never been any contention
Guys,
among.
I remember this is like such a truly Western problem, and I only need to pose this, like that kind of incongruence between faith and science, because my parents are cute. They're very cute. They love finding anything Arab and Orthodox in the West. They're like, oh my God, we should go to that. So when I was a kid, they found an Orthodox church camp that I could go to that was almost entirely Arab. Like they would throw us Arab party nights called haflis where we would just play Arab music and we would debkit and we would go crazy. It was wow. Half of us could speak Arabic, the other half were like second, third generation that couldn't. Fantastic time. We were 9 years old, talking about how like, yeah, it's more than likely that Genesis was just sort of like metaphor for understanding evolution in a time where we didn't have the words for it yet. 9 years old, guys.
Wow.
Ripping that Band-Aid off for us. It's like, did they tell us about St. Nicholas until we were 14? No, they did not. We held that down.
Nice.
Whereas here, like when
He's Turkish, we have to we represent.
But here, when you're here, when you're a Christian here, it shatters your childhood when your parents sit you down and be like, guys, Coca-Cola Santa Claus, he's not real. It's just us. Like, we're sorry. But it makes me wonder, is part of that, this may be reductive, so correct me if it isn't, but is part of that because the Islamic Golden Age was fueled so much by the knowledge doctrine that is so part and parcel to, an Abrahamic faith, that the idea that you could be pious while also examining things on such a scientific level. Like, I don't know if it's because there wasn't the same dichotomy that existed.
I don't know if I would argue it was specifically like the Islamic era, because I would point even to the early Byzantine era of alchemy. Mm-hmm. Like science just never really was divorced from faith. A lot of times they're using like the cross in order to turn things from whatever to gold. Like they're quite the opposite. They're also incorporating elements of like symbology and religion, and like whether it's local religion or just folklore. Like I think that the development of science relies on theology to a certain extent. Like there is a reason that across Western and Eastern traditions, most of the early scientists were also men of the church or like whatever faith they are in their homeland. Like the search for like, why the fuck is present in both of those disciplines.
At least funded or approved by the church until they find that the earth revolves around the sun or whatever. Then they go, okay, well, we got to kill you.
Hold on there, Galileo.
I mean, even from like an Eastern perspective, much of the great scholars of Persia are religious thinkers as well. Much of the doctors are also clerics and sheikhs, like throughout Middle Eastern history. Yeah. I think that there was always, and even now, Greece actually has, it's very sweet. There's several doctors throughout Greece where in many of the hospitals, Greece is almost entirely Orthodox Christian and has a very like, not unique, but specific culture of orthodoxy that isn't different from the rest of us, but just like specific chants, specific intonation, very, very noticeable. So there's almost like a doctor per hospital that knows all the Byzantine chants, so that if one of his patients or her patients are nearing death, feeling uncertain, wanting that kind of like, these are doctors, they are good, upstanding doctors, like men and women of science that are fully comfortable also holding their faith in like one hand and their craft in the other. I don't know.
Hey,
I think
if you can do that, man, go for it. I'll have, if you believe in Jesus and you can give me open heart surgery, that's cool.
God be with you for real.
yeah.
But I think like what Angie is saying is, and I don't know if it's because the US never had an age where its sciences were necessarily like at the cutting edge until the last 100 and odd years or so, that like there was like, when we think of the development of religion in the case of the United States, so much of it was just like the revival meetings of all these people in the countryside, crafting this weird literalist interpretation of the Bible. And at a time when the medical science in the US was piss poor, like people, there was an incredibly high infant mortality rate, disease was rampant. So I don't really think there was an institutional reason for the US, as all these people were, dispossessing indigenous nations and settling westward, to have the same reverence for science that existed in these bustling civilizations, like there was in the
Well,
former
What I'm
Byzantium.
going to say, what I'm about to
Yeah.
say is going to be controversial, but I
Uh-oh.
think that if you hear me out, we will get there together. I
Okay.
don't think it's the reverence for science that's lacking. I do think it's the reverence for faith. Jung has a line in one of his books that I think he actually ascribes to a rabbi, where he had asked him, like, why do you think the rates of religion are declining across the world? And he's writing in like the mid 1900s at this point.
Mhm.
And the rabbi tells him it's because there's no one around to bow low enough. And I
Wow.
think that has been a really profound truth for a very long time, because from the moment of like the first Great Awakening in the US, which I think is kind of what you're referring to, Adam.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like, it's not so much people, getting back to faith and like grounding themselves. Thank you so much, Kat.
Wow.
Grounding themselves in what traditional faith looked like or anything like that. It was very much like I kind of like this. I kind of like doing this. Can I read this into the Bible in a way? It was a lack of reverence for the source material. I feel bad saying that, like for the canon. But it was a lack of genuine reverence for tradition and connection to tradition. And I would argue connection to like a natural land, a land that they also like, that religion was tied to, not in the sense that like we are owed this land because God promised it to us, but in that like our faith makes us caretakers of the world we are given. That didn't exist in the West for a while. And I also, like, I say the West because I think this is also the case for like England, Germany, France, a lot of the Western nations similarly, where it just becomes completely divorced. There's like this irreverence for faith that sometimes is justified, but the root of is typically just kind of like self-interest, usually, occasionally profit. Mormonism, not profit. Same with the Jehovah's Witness.
All of the frontier religions that came out in the United States, from the Baptists to the evangelicals, and then over in Europe with the Lutheranism and the Protestants who work, and the work ethic is the main thing for them. It became more about control rather than about community and about philosophy, which a lot of religions still people take seriously, saying the text and everything is supposed to help you, guide you in your life, not something you can like tap on while you own slaves and have all this corporate greed or like molest children or all three.
Did anyone here see The Testament of Anne Lee?
No.
It's on Hulu/Disney Plus. You guys need it. It's a musical about Anne Lee, Mother Anne Lee, who founded the Shakers. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. Amanda Seyfried does
I like her
knockout performance. It's really, really interesting. I would be curious to hear both of your thoughts on it because, again, it's Kitty. My dog heard your cat, by the way, and came running in from the other room.
People asked to see her. Her name is Lilith. She's
Kitty
staring at the birds.
And Angie, what is she named after?
She's
because my sister also had a cat named Lilith, so please tell us, what is she named after? We know.
She is named after the little Babylonian Lilitus, which eventually become the Jewish Lilith, the like kind of eclectic or occult Jewish Lilith in mythology, who is the first wife of Adam, who rebels, and she's like, I don't think I really want to do this.
What does she do? What was her story? Was she omnipotent, or what was the deal there? Because I only remember the Marvel character.
in the original Babylonian myth, they're almost like demons. They're not a specific creature, they're like a class of creature. The Lilitu are specifically a class of spiritual being that tends to prey on and interact with children mainly, and pregnant women. They love a pregnant woman. But a lot of times, with the way that ancient cultures and mythologies worked, it wasn't like things were benevolent and malevolent. It was that like you would ward yourself from danger, and those those creatures or elements that could be dangerous also occasionally had like a sliver of a helping hand, like in the way that you don't want to kill a spider because it's eating your ants, that kind of vibe. When she gets absorbed into some of the occult Jewish mythology, she becomes the first wife of Adam, who leaves him when she is asked to be subservient. She kind of defects from the Garden of Eden. And in some stories, she becomes the consort to, it's not Satan, it's one of the demons.
Beelzebub.
And it starts with an S, and
Starts with an S.
Some Zazel, I want to say. It's one of those. Yeah. She has like a very interesting folklore where she kind of becomes this like queen of demons and like the mother of all. And there's like a lot of in a early like occult Jewish mythology. We say early because we don't really know how much of this has been reconstructed or how much of it existed at the time. She was like believed to, you would want to ward her off if you were with child or like had a young child, because she might come and try to like eat the baby out of you. But
that's why you sing lullabies to your kids, right? Is to ward you. The whole idea of singing a lullaby is to
in Babylonian mythology, the idea of also, I believe there are theories that the first like mobiles were in Babylonian, not cribs obviously, but like over the beds of Babylonian babies in order to ward off the Lilitus from the babies.
They slept in baskets, probably.
Honestly, they were probably co-sleeping, so they were fine.
I found out in the Middle Ages that people didn't have their own rooms, and a lot of the kids just slept in.
Well, it was also
one big room.
It was also to keep everybody warm. It was like
they also shit in buckets and poured it out the window. So.
Yeah.
Which I still do. It's a tradition I carry on to this day, just to be very,
Well, you're in Germany. They still have the infrastructure where you can just throw your piss and shit out the window and it will still like flow to the nearest river at least.
Well, I was going to say, I've lived in Europe. I know how frequently those street sweepers come. You're fine.
Yeah.
They're cleaning up after you.
People leave their both literal and figurative shit in the streets of our American cities, but we have no street. We have a street cleaning, vehicle once a week, but that's it.
The entire city of San Francisco smells like a chamber pot.
Yeah.
You know what really pissed me off in Europe specifically is the fact that I stepped out. I had made it to like my adult life without having to actually step foot out of the airport in Paris, out of de Gaulle. The first time I get out of that train station and I just get like actually punched in the face with just the smell of piss. And you want me to call that the developed West? Syria has been through 15 years of war. It smells not great sometimes. Like there is some rotting food in the air, but pee?
But you know what it is? It's for the same reason when the conquistadors landed and every European landed in the Americas for that matter, the first thing they noticed was how bad they all smelled. Is that Europe has a unique aversion to hygiene. Like that it's not just for, it's like part of European culture to just be disgusting.
I don't know. I would take a shower, but why bother?
It's like, guys, I was actually like 26 years old. I was this year when I discovered that Pepe Le Pew is a French skunk.
Wait,
and
I know that.
I didn't. I never put it together. I laughed for like 4 hours every time it would pop into my head. I was like, that's so funny. They made them a skunk.
What did you think he was?
I didn't really. I just thought he was a skunk with a silly name. I had
They had like the music with him and everything. Like he
There's
was
like
clearly.
several
I
cartoons
had
where
not interacted with the source material, so
Okay.
he was just like a cartoon skunk in my brain.
Which
So
was
imagine my surprise.
I just can't get past the fact he's a skunk.
when this, like really gropey, weird woman guy who smells really bad is French. You were like, wait,
So great.
I get it now.
Wait a minute.
And the other one's a cat. And the cat doesn't want anything to do with the skunk because the skunk is not a cat and also stinks.
He's French. That's the reason, Chris.
We all know that the French are
you are
smelly.
you are insulting the Pan-African leader, the great Pan-African leaders of the world in, comparing them to a skunk. Okay, you guys need to be
Macron, yeah, right.
Yeah.
The great Pan-African leaders. Oh yeah, I forgot France is in Africa, right?
I saw one tweet. I had to laugh so hard. It was like some younger woman made a toss at Macron or something, and someone was like, "That's disgusting. She's young enough to be your wife's granddaughter."
Yeah. Yeah. He's fooling around with some actress or something. These guys only want to get tail anyway. This is any guy who's out says, "Oh, I want to be mayor. I want to be
very explicitly French in his drawing." So to me, I was just like, silly skunk. You told me he's French. I'm like,
oh, you know what it is?
My darling Shelly.
Are you watching in English or Arabic?
I really don't think I've ever watched this character move. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him in his works.
In the cartoon. You've never seen him in action?
No.
You need to start binging all the Pepe Le Pew shorts, to really
I was a Tom and Jerry girl. Like,
yeah,
hard.
I had my favorites.
Well, because I think they're nonverbal, they seem to have a very broad cultural appeal. Like, I remember, this is a weird detail to retain. I remember when they like raided Osama bin Laden's compound, he had like a full hard drive of just Tom and Jerry cartoons.
There's something, I don't know how to explain this. Okay,
no,
they are Arab brothers. Tom and Jerry have the dynamic of two brothers fighting over the same shitty ass house in the village. Okay,
they blow each other up. What are you talking about?
It sounds biblical.
You have not seen, you guys, I don't know, you like, if it's uniquely, I'm fortunate enough that my family fights about everything but land. We have no land of interest to fight over. We fight over silly things. But the Arab fights over inheritance are giving very much Tom and Jerry fighting for that shitty little mouse hole in the wall. Like, that is.
But why? Like, the over inheritance specifically? Like, I've seen.
I couldn't tell you.
Money.
Well, frankly, because land is the only like lasting commodity in the Middle East. Like, if you have land, you have security because you have somewhere to live where you can't be kicked out. Other than that, like, I think even in our old dramas, like Bab al-Hara, the old sort of Syrian traditional drama, the poorest guy is held up only by the fact that he owns a basically empty house. But like, it's fun. Everything else is really bad in his life, but at bare minimum, he has somewhere to go home and sleep. Like, that is very much the perspective people take in the Middle East.
Whereas in the US, you can't own land. No one owns land. You mortgage a house in like a cookie cutter shitty subdivision in the middle of nowhere in a flyover state.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like the idea.
I would go. Yeah, they hold you hostage. They hold you hostage too by your employment to give you health care and stuff. This is why I keep telling my wife I want to move to Afghanistan, get a goat, and just sit on some hot rocks and drink tea. You know,
I
could do that
because she shouldn't.
She wouldn't want to. Yeah.
No.
We can't really fault her for that.
No.
She was like, "Didn't you think about me?" I was like, "Oh yeah, the woman thing." We'll put a fake mustache on you. We'll get you a fake beard.
I mean,
would you be into that? Like, can you carry on the?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's gonna raise if you move anywhere to Afghanistan with your wife cosplaying as a man, that's gonna open up a whole new series of problems with you guys cohabitating together. Let's just be clear about that.
First
All
off,
right.
they need to pass as brothers. But I'm saying
Yeah.
this as a woman. I'm like, as the woman in your life here, as like the platonic woman in your life, some free advice. She's gonna ask you every day she's dressed as a man, like, do you still think I'm pretty? And you have to say yes. I'm sorry, you have to say yes.
No, what I'll say is, I'll say, honey,
if she's
you're
using
even.
your eyeliner, like put 5 o'clock shadow all over her
Yeah.
face. She's like, you're still attracted to me, right?
Yeah. And
Say,
you have to say yes, and I will check.
I'm actually more attracted to her with the facial hair. With the, I want the burly, mountain man beard.
Is that why you moved to Germany? Like, I feel
I was looking for a nice German girl with a nice thick Al Qaeda beard.
There is something like in every cartoon we'd watch as kids, like there was always like the German headmaster or headmistress who was like super masculine and had like the jaw and her name was Olga or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
no, this is true. This is true.
So that's a real stereotype in Germany.
Well,
then.
German women, as you remember, when Rome would come up and try to conquer the Germans and the barbarians, as they called them, that the women would fight and they would scare the shit out of the Roman soldiers because they had never seen a woman fighting before. And these women would come over the hills with swords, screaming, ah! And they've just always been tough as nails. And the first sex shop ever opened in Germany, everybody knows, they are very open-minded and very independent. So,
well,
which
the
I
sex didn't
Hitler.
pioneer, I should say the Third Reich pioneered the sex doll so that the German soldiers wouldn't get STDs, right? I'm pretty sure that's unfortunately. Again, let's kink shame it. Let's kink shame everybody.
No, everyone should be kink shamed more, frankly. I'm sorry.
Let's kink shame everybody who owns a sex doll. You own a relic of Nazi history.
Yeah.
In addition to being probably a creep and a weirdo.
What's worse, being a Nazi or being a pervert? What'd you say? Meow.
There's other reasons to shame.
There are many reasons to shame anyone who owns a sex doll. I'm not saying it's a litany. It's a litany. It's a laundry list of reasons. But I feel like Hitler should be at least in the top 3 of why somebody should.
It should be in there. It should be in there, sandwiched between two what the fucks.
If you have a sex doll, that's one thing. But you have like a sex doll that's like a Cabbage Patch Kid, then that's
what the
too
hell?
much.
I don't want to.
I need to believe that those aren't in production for my ability to sleep tonight.
Epstein Island. I don't know. It's a weird world.
All the early dolls look like Adolf. Oh, good lord! There was something else I wanted to say about. Oh, we either need less kink shaming or more kink shaming. Not sure. Some amount of kink shaming that isn't the current amount.
I have a firm belief that like maybe 65-ish% of the kinks that we currently acknowledge are prevalent in society are reactions to trauma that wouldn't be there in a different world.
Well, there's that guy. There's that guy who created his own kink just to like as a social experiment to see if people would fall for it. And it's literally just the kink of like someone painting their legs yellow. Just the most absurd, totally divorced from anything even remotely sexy thing.
Yeah.
And people did. Like, you have to wonder the psychology that goes into.
Well, see, those things I'm like, sure, like, listen, let's be so frank with each other. Mythology of ancient man, weird descriptions of people and sex and gender generally. It doesn't surprise me when people are into things that are just like weird aesthetically. It does make me and my like psychology brain go when people are into being hit, because I'm like,
oh yeah,
sure. Like in a world where, and this is me not kink shaming, but genuinely like wishing I could imagine a world where women were not subjected to misogyny from the moment of consciousness. I don't think we would develop those kinks. I think those are like coping mechanisms.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. Is we'll never know either because of the way things have gone. So we'll never know the alternate reason. Yeah. But I see it too. It's sad. It's sad.
Joking really scares me.
Yeah.
Like
I
Mm.
had
the
a girl
king.
choke I had a girl choke me one time, and I was like, "I don't like this. This is bad."
It's not like I fully understand like the being into it because the idea of losing control is ultimately what it is. It's like that you
Mm.
trust someone enough to lose control to them. But it's the level of violence that we resort our intimacy to that I'm like,
Yeah.
we
It's
would
this
I don't think
sub
that that would come to the brain.
yeah,
Mm.
submission and domination are sort of the driving factors behind a lot of erotic thoughts. And so you have these people who get their wires crossed and like to go to extremes. And yeah, when you're starting to hurt other people or like peeping Tom, stuff like that, not so good.
Exactly. What I was gonna say is like the prevalence of watching porn or sex dolls, which like we're joking about, but I mean, how much of like this is uncomfortable to talk about, but how much of our sexual experience are we commodifying and consuming as like self-medication rather than actual intimacy of any kind? Like, I'm not saying that sex has to be this like puritanical love bond, but it is definitely more than a handshake. So it is like it's having an impact on you when you do it with
Yeah.
someone regularly. So
I heard a guy on the radio where he was like, I had a sex pornography addiction. It was like an older guy, and he was masturbating like 12 times a day, and he couldn't get enough. And eventually his wife found out and like divorced him, and it ruined his life. He could lost his job. Like it was so bad for him and I will never understand this, that you can chase that sort of pleasure to the absolute
I
end.
I do think what Angie's saying is right in that it's just like another means of self-medicating in a
I think
and
it can be both. You can be, get your rocks off on a daily in order to just maintain like zoo animals in zoo exhibits do it because they're fucking stressed and they
well,
do it constantly. And that's kind of for a lot of people, it's a coping mechanism for stress. And so they're using, hey, whatever I can do to make my prison stay more appealing, I'll do that. But then the other thing we're talking about love between two people or three people, whatever. But there's a line there between primal, drives and wanting to feel closeness and love and support. And there's a difference, right?
I desperately need to see if I can find this essay that I was reading, but I was reading an essay specifically about polyamory and about how polyamory is kind of being used right now. Not necessarily, it's a trend for sure, but not consciously. Like people are using it almost as a band-aid for the like social and economic strain on the standard relationship, that rather
mm,
than seeking to find partners that are genuinely supportive and like are genuinely enmeshed, because I feel like we're at this really weird time where capitalism and patriarchy are intersecting in a manner that's more pervasive than maybe we've seen in like 100 years, to be honest, because I think feminism was much more pronounced and distinct in the generations prior to now. So we're in this like little pocket where gender and money are so like catapulted together that polyamory has become this trend of people essentially like outsourcing the need for resources. Like two
Yeah.
people aren't cutting it anymore. Okay, let's bring a third person into the group. Like let's literally like bring in a third income. Let's bring in a third
yeah.
person to meet my emotional needs, to meet my physical needs, but that doesn't solve the initial problem, which is the needs not being met.
Well, there's two things, there's two pieces to that. One is that historically, like when we talk about polyamory as it existed in places like Africa, or polygamy rather, it was literally to just breed as many farming hands as you could to survive. Sorry, this is mean, but I had to post. I had to send this to Chris to show on here. Whenever someone says polyamory, I can't help but think of this graphic. But when there's that famous study that said, women had better sex, were more sexually fulfilled in East Germany, that women under socialism are more content in their relationships, than women under capitalism are. And I think it's speaking to that kind of scarcity that
I think it's more the superficiality that comes with capitalism that makes it that way. It's the judging something by metrics, and especially security and stability through marrying into money, or like a lot of emphasis on upward mobility. And now we're at this sort of swipe left phase in all these apps that where we're commodities, and we're actually shopping for somebody to bang, and we're scared to make commitments, just like we're scared to make commitments in the cereal aisle. Oh, should I get Kicks or should I get Chex? Oh, there's so many options. I don't know.
You're speaking as a man, where I feel like there's a very a very non-specific population of women who are actually willing to accept anything right now. Like the trad wife trajectory is right on this same vibe, and that swipe leftism, it's happening for sure, but it's not happening for any like white Christian males with money.
Well,
they make those dating apps for Republicans though, because no one can, dude,
Go ahead.
There are plenty of women who are at least 10, 20, 30% of the population of women who are willing to just bend down and just do whatever they're told. So whatever they have to do, because I don't know.
What I've found interestingly in like research is that the moments or like the triggers of radicalization are really similar for like women that are sucked into the alt-right, or women who become trad wives, or whatever we want to call it, like that brand of women, and more radical feminist radicalization. The moments, sexism in the workplace, or just like generally the workplace being shit, is one of the top moments or like isolated scenarios, contexts that trad wife influencers specifically cite as like, this is what made me think, like, why am I doing this? Why am I troubling myself with this? Which, like, listen, you're so close, babe. You're so close. The question shouldn't be like, why am I dealing with this as a woman? The question should be, why are any of us dealing with this at all? But they, rather than going that route, or the like girl boss feminist route of like, if I just work the system, I get my 401k and I clock out, baby. They go like, fuck it, I want my man to spend money on me, which is hell. In a world where I knew that I would be completely safe and secure with a man spending on me, I don't want to work.
Yeah.
No one wants to labor in the system. Like, I think I say this out of a desire to deeply empathize with people falling down that pipeline, but like I see
these bitches are just lazy. Come on.
There's a lot of like, I'm afraid, white women, you are testing my ability to sympathize with you, because they're living in this intersection of like being oppressed and identifying with their oppressor. That I think we're in a moment, in the same way actually that I think like fascism is spreading in places like India and throughout the world. We're in a moment where to capitalize on anything is to capitalize on the right. The left is not profitable right now anywhere, really.
This is why the influencers are popping up all over the places.
And that's also why the very idea of a trad wife, explain that to somebody like a yuppie in the 1990s. It's like, what are you talking about, first of all? But the idea that it's proliferated is because there are these internet communities that would not be promoted in the same way by like, old media. Like there are these women who I forget that one girl, I think she's Mormon, who's like, my husband just got back from a missionary trip and I'm surprising him with some cookies. Get ready with me. I forget who she is. My sisters have told me her name like many times. I already forget. But like, it's like there is.
Is it the one who whispers the whole time?
Yes.
My kids just got home and they had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I'm going to make them peanut butter from scratch. My kids said they wanted gum, so I'm gonna make them peppermint gum from scratch. Girl,
get ready with me to drink some raw milk with my kids, or just like There's also, I think, something, and I wonder about this too. The ennui of being a trad wife, I would think, would be so isolating and so boring once the kids are at school that, yeah, I'm just going to make content.
Oh, you think they send them to school, Adam? That's so sweet of you. Oh my God. That's the most naive thing to be said on this stream, maybe ever. You think
Sunday school.
Have you seen the New York Times? Fuck the New York Times. But have you seen the New York Times' profile on Hannah Nealman, Ballerina Farm?
Who's that?
So, Mormon. This actually
all
makes
roads
me
lead to
really mad when I
Mormonism.
recount it.
All roads lead to Salt Lake City.
They own a large, I believe, ranch farm where they produce several, like they produce meat, they produce milk. They got into a like really big scandal recently because they were selling raw milk, and like obviously that was not, there's like E. coli. It was not good. But she was a elite dancer, an elite ballerina. She was in Juilliard. She meets this guy whose dad is like the owner of JetBlue or something. And meets him. He's like, ooh, I like her. She's going back to New York. And she offhandedly, I'm sorry, this is a big lore drop, but I need to impress upon you how creepy this man is. She tells him like, yeah, I'm flying back to New York tomorrow. And he's like, great, I sit next to you. And she's like, what? She gets there and she's like, you're 5A, you're 5B. Because he called his dad and he switched their seats so that they would both be in first class together and forced them on a first date. They start dating and she's like, I wanted to wait a year to get married so that I can finish my degree. And he's like, that's not going to work for me. So they get engaged and then get married within 3 months of dating. And then within like another year of that, she's either pregnant with or has her first child. She is literally the first and only modern undergraduate at Juilliard to get pregnant. Like, wrap your heads around that. So she drops out. He drops out of Juilliard. She's a pageant queen. Like, she's been Miss Utah, I believe, if not Miss America. I don't know. She drops out. She's on 9 kids now. She has 9 children. She's 9 children. And they, based on their interviews, which in the one time, the New York Times interview, the author of that interview specifically states that she never is able to speak with Hannah alone. There are always kids in the room or her husband. And whenever she answers a question, her husband like adds something or corrects something at the end. And then she like adds onto it and like incorporates it into her answer. But she's like the quintessential, she doesn't identify as a trad wife in her interview. She's the quintessential trad wife in every way that matters. They say they don't have any nannies or any childcare help except for one night a week when they have a babysitter for date night. And it's just her running around 9 kids and a farm and a ranch.
Yeah, I think like the 2 things, like one, we're living through an existential crisis, which is probably inducing a mass psychosis on the people. Like they don't know how to handle it. And you're seeing very bizarre behavior in not just the decline of the West, but also the decline of, all life on Earth. This brings out some funniness in people. And I think some people are doomers, and then some people double down and say, I'm going to have 19 children or whatever. And then the other thing is the women in that, now that we have a service economy, they're sort of being forced into working positions where otherwise men would have been working at factories, but now we're just reselling shit from China to each other. And so maybe she just doesn't want to do that. I don't know, man, but it's totally fascinating.
I mean, I don't think she ever had the option of not seeing this man if
it's frightening. Next to her. Oh, it's quite frightening. I do fear, like, my heart kind of hurts because you're a white woman raised in Utah under Mormon values, and this guy comes along and he's like sweeping you off your feet. I don't know, guys. Like, I feel like that's really hard as a woman to be like strong enough to say no and then to subsequently say no after you've said the initial yes to like other things. Someone in the comments said that she seems so sad, and like she really does. One of the moments that made them go viral is where she's like opening her birthday gift, I think, and she had told him explicitly, His dad owns JetBlue. They own a 300-acre ranch in Utah. These are multi-million. She wanted, guys, I'm so upset. She wanted a trip to Greece for her birthday. He got her an egg apron.
Oh my God.
And he made her open it on camera. Where she's like opening this box and she's like, oh my God, I hope it's something for Greece.
You're
And it's an egg apron.
Dude, if you're talking about kink, this is the ultimate kink, to be humiliated every moment of your life. Dude, that's what it is. This now that now just hit me. That's what this is. This is just a really weird quirk that this chick has. And
well, that's the thing, is like, we're sold, and she, God bless her, like, maybe not. I don't know how I feel. I really struggle.
She thinks God is blessing her in some ways.
No, like, she continues to parrot. After that New York Times article came out, which was like, frankly, like, really honest. She was the author of that article did not pull any punches. She wanted to ask questions about birth control, and she wrote a whole paragraph in that article about, like, I wasn't able to ask her any questions about birth control because her kids were always around. The closest I could do is ask, like, do you plan pregnancies? And the husband answered for her.
Of course.
But after that article drops, she posted a video, like, essentially saying that it wasn't an accurate reflection of their life or XYZ. And it's like, all of this is being framed to us, even by herself. She doesn't use the word feminism, but she's very much using the language of choice feminism. All of this is being framed to us within the veneer of choice feminism. And I'm like,
you're doubting. Yeah, you're doubting, like you said before, is this just a product of our environment, or are we, or is this an actual choice? Like, are we really choosing to be this way, or are we just so fucked up now that we have Stockholm syndrome and we're just like, well,
the thing is, I do have women where I see them and I'm like, oh, you're choosing this. Oh,
sure,
you're choosing this. You're choosing this and you like it. You're choosing this and you're enjoying it.
You choose it and you're good at it.
Erica Kirk, we acknowledge as a master class of choosing it and enjoying it, because she would have been, this isn't talked about enough. She would have been perfectly happy living in her husband's shadow for the rest of her life.
Think about all the wives, the Republican wives, with the pearl necklaces and the silk blouses and stuff, and they have no of their own opinion. They're not able to form their own opinion. They reiterate what their partner says.
But then you do get like all the blonde women on Fox News who, again, they couch themselves in this language of pseudo feminism as they, I don't know how I can describe it. They carry water for the patriarchy.
Yes, exactly.
Sure. While pretending that they are doing so because they are against the like woke liberal mainstream who have forced women to be miserable and choose careers instead of having families.
Right, the Fox News is absolute. Every I'm so high right now. Every accusation is a confession. Like it's a masterclass in doublespeak. So that when they say that kind of stuff, like what's the trans lady's name that is a billionaire who's a Trump supporter?
Oh, Jenner.
Brianna Wu?
No.
No.
I don't think she's trans.
No, Jenner. Yeah.
I'm proud.
Bruce Jenner turned into Caitlyn Jenner. She's terrible. Like, this person's terrible. She's on Fox News. She's a Fox News contributor, and they talk about how trans people are so dangerous and horrible and everything. And then they let her on, but she's cool. Like, let her on. She's all right. It's clearly a bunch of fucking horseshit and entertainment.
At a certain point, I think you have to examine the class element. I mean, like Milo Yiannopoulos, he's a non-entity now, but he was very much the poster child against, the quote, right identity politics caricature, because he was a gay
Yeah.
God-fearing conservative. I mean, obviously
I've
he.
seen a lot of these people. They do the same thing with people from the diaspora. They say, "Oh, here's this Chinese person who is all upset about communism," and now they're like pundits on Fox News. I know them all. I would write articles about them because they piss me off so much that they come out and pretend like well, Thomas Sowell was perfect at this. He played the race card when it suited him, and then didn't when they say, well, black people are just like anybody else. They just need to work harder. But then when somebody says, no, black people are, and he says, what you know about black people? I'm black, is very on brand for
Also,
the strategy.
just to be clear to Yuko Noka there, I'm not shitting on anyone who has kids. I personally can't imagine doing that right now.
I am. I'm taking a huge dump on him.
Having kids is one thing. Having 9 kids in 13 years is another thing. And frankly, I'm sorry, as a woman, that should be considered abuse. That to put a woman through 9 rounds of pregnancy and childbirth. But she has an average of like a 9-month gap. Like it's not.
But it's sticky, Angie. It's a sticky situation because you have this veneer of consent, which makes it so you're never really going to know for sure whether or not this person is.
Here's the thing. I was pre-law when I was an undergrad, so I'm glad you mentioned this. There are designation in U.S. law. If the U.S. law has it, you know it's got to be baseline because U.S. law is shit. There are designations in U.S. law that explicitly state that harm that is consented to is still harm. You cannot consent to be tortured or consent to be killed because those are crimes against you. Those are like levels of violence against you that are considered state crimes. So you can't consent to them. Like you can't consent to being murdered. And that has been invoked multiple times in court and held up. And I almost feel like this is akin to that. You absolutely, like, I believe she is consenting and I believe she loves all of her children. I don't believe in a world where she had the choice to not be impregnated 3 months after she just gave birth. I don't believe she would be making that choice.
Certainly, it doesn't help to have somebody who likes to see everything as a commodity be persuasive and in her ear constantly. But it reminds me of the story in Germany where the guy put out an ad on Craigslist and said, I want to be killed and eaten. Oh, yeah. And the guy cut his dick off and they barbecued it and they both ate it. But the guy got into trouble. What would you do in this situation? Obviously, these two fucking freakazoids want to do this. Do you let them do it? Or
it's not do you let them? I don't think that there's a state reaction to this, right? Like,
I don't think so.
I think that where my concern lies is in the effect that this is having on 12-year-old girls on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter who are seeing this and like, I don't know. It feels like girls are being indoctrinated into the world of Rosemary's Baby.
They are.
In a very real sense. And it's like...
That's another thing. Social media control is another thing entirely. And there has to be well thought. I don't know what China does exactly. China has a specific thing. They outlaw pornography in China, by the way. They don't have pornography. I found this out. As they should. And for whatever reason, they have a different set of circumstances. Look, I don't know. There's a different way to do things. But what other people do, I try not to be concerned about. But you're right. Actually, it's really easy. If you don't go check on people who live at the house at the end of the road, what they're doing in there, most of the time, there could be incest. There was a story about the guy who locked his daughter in the basement in a room and never let her out.
I just think all these. Oh yeah. Oh please. I went from wanting to be pre-law to wanting to like study criminal psychology. I have done complete profiling courses. I've read textbooks. Like I'm sick and twisted, but unfortunately it comes to my advantage.
It
I
sounds like we want to be surveilled. It sounds like there is no other option but for us to be surveilled unless
I
otherwise
think
we'll have
it's less about
exploitation and
surveillance and less and more about what's projected. Like, because do we really believe that what's being projected by someone like Ballerina Farm, who we just discussed, or Nara
yeah.
Smith, the one that you were talking about, Adam, where she's like, I'm gonna bake gummy bears from scratch. Like, is that realistic? Do we think that that's even realistic for her life? Or do we think that she's got 2 to 3 nannies running around with those kids, or she's doing this on a set?
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say the sponsorships help
Right.
with
sponsorships
the
absolutely
role that
help, but,
she's
like,
filling.
there's been a great deal of, ironically, like, fiction writing more recently. I was recently reading, like, a literature review, op-ed that was looking at the number of fiction books that have been written focusing on the concept of the trad wife. Most of them are
Mhm.
psychological horrors. One of them specifically, I wish I remembered the title. Several of them are like literally just titled The Trad Wife or Trad Wife. One of them, the end twist is like that they have essentially a split house where half of it is the normal house and then half of it is like a mirror image of the house that's just a set that they record on.
Uh,
And that is very realistic in
Mm.
terms of like what these moms are doing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mom image on
Did
camera
you
is
did
off.
their movie just came out, Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere, and I watched it.
Mhm.
It was the same thing, just on a different way, and like how the one guy got broken up with during the process of the filming and stuff because they tried to interview, and the guy was like, "No, don't interview my wife," and she was like, "I want to do the interview," and she talked a little bit, and then like months later, she realized, yeah, he's a douchebag. I don't, but they're trying to project this stuff more than they're actually trying to live it,
Then
and
you have to wonder at what point is it simulation or simulacra with these women who get the idea of a trad wife from social media. They then try to become a social media trad wife influencer themselves. Some of them are having children, marrying these wealthy white men for the sake of living a vision they saw on TikTok and then broadcasting that same vision on TikTok. At what point do we think this is a real
on,
life that they're choosing, or is it something that
honestly,
they are manufacturing because it's been sold to them?
the thing is though, but this is more the lifestyle that we're describing about them is more in our DNA than the lifestyle we're describing about equality. I don't think that we're naturally like this. I think that if you give somebody the okay to fucking, subjugate women and have sex and eat as much as you want, and if you give people the okay to do stuff like this, that they'll do it. And if you culturally reinforce this and they learn through videos and movies and TikTok videos, it reinforces it, but it's there deep embedded, just like this fascism characteristic is deeply embedded in people. And it depends on circumstances. If you get the right circumstances and the right chemistry working in your body, they'll go for it.
I'm of the belief as a Marxist, I'm of the belief that people are molded more by their material and social conditions. I don't think there's like a universal
Oh,
innate
it's both.
human
It's
nature.
both. It
Do
is.
you
It's
think,
both.
like, in a world where
Lived
prehistoric
experiences.
man, like man in the cave, was presented with the option of carte blanche domination, I do think that he would think of the empathy of like his brother
Yeah.
before the interest of himself. And
Animals show
I don't know.
this.
We're
And
just too
animals,
taught. We're too conditioned. If you gave any man the option of like absolute power right now, he's operating in the context where any individual has a net zero power in his apparatus of like just his individual sphere, let alone the next level of operation above him.
yeah.
I don't know. I also just feel like our world as individuals has gotten so much bigger recently that the level of control we feel we have is so much smaller than it ever was before. The level of access that we have to news and just constant communication with the
Yep.
world and people that are not
Every
directly relevant to
every
our day to day.
every piece of information that we receive is a potential threat. We're in order for us to even parse information, we're basically just trying to figure out what the threats are. That's how our brains develop. This is the only thing that ever matters. And yeah, it's like we're animals, and we forget that we're animals. And I think that uh, after the fact that most animals won't fight for any reason. They save energy and they avoid conflict. But humans have been at conflict so much, and it's because survival has become secondary since the agricultural revolution. So we don't really have to fight for survival. So we fight for fun over ideological shit,
We
just
make
for a
this
hoot.
argument, forgive me for this. This argument is made from the West and a lot of times from the ivory tower. Not that any of us are in this ivory tower, but that's where this argument originates from. If we actually looked at conflicts from like the modern era, let's say 1800 to now, how many of those conflicts would be ones that were like seeds sown through division?
What do you mean? Like people
Like,
pitted against each other?
absolutely. Like the person who's actually making the money is up top, and the
Most
ones
of
who
them?
are poor are fighting amongst each other, is the
Most of them, I'd
general
say.
vibe. And I think it's almost like the opposite of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where it's once one person has amassed an advantage that is enough for them to see themselves above the crop of the rest. Once there is a class division, the upper class can create this infighting within the lower class.
Yeah.
It's not actually a fight over like diminishing resources. It's manufactured. It's manufactured scarcity that produces conflict within humans from, I would argue, like the beginning of human conflict to now.
Sure.
We're just
and that
of
but
early.
the point was that they still go for it. Like the fact that they're pitted against each other and they buy into whatever they're told and they go for it, whether it's by threat or by ideology or
I don't know. I feel like it's manipulation. Because I would feel like a colonial insertion into a homeland that manufactures divisions between the home population. Absolutely, like those people are buying in to a certain extent.
But okay, so let's say you didn't have that. You didn't have that force pitting us against each other. And you didn't have TikTok showing you algorithmic, bad habits and stuff. You didn't have this influence, and your culture wasn't geared towards violence and all the bad stuff like it is now. Then I agree with you. Then we would have a fighting chance at being.
And I think all those
in
things
the
are
Garden of
connected to
Eden.
each other. Like all of those things, they're the same exact chain, and they're all required in order for any of the others to exist. The subjugation of women, absolutely required for capitalism. And I would argue that the point at which the subjugation of women becomes really like indoctrinated into statehood is the moment where feudalism collapses. Because prior to that, women are performing labor that is valued in the same manner that men are. Yeah. So there's like the subjugation of women is completely integral to the development of modern capitalism. And on top of that, the division of like really strict gender and racial roles, super integral to the development of that flourishing economic system the moment that it wants to leave the home state. So all of these different things are building off of each other from the origin point, which is the capitalist. Like the, maybe not individual, but like in the theoretical, the individual capitalist who is willing to create these things for his gain.
What do we
accumulation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do we know about feminism in Cuba, North Korea, and China, which is still has the capitalism and the consumerism is still there? What is there? Does anybody know?
So North Korea particularly, feminism generally is considered Western, in my understanding, because the freedom of the sexes in their state ideology is rooted in the freedom of like all,
Yeah.
which
Okay. Makes sense. Not a bad idea.
oh my god, who could have thought of that?
Yeah.
But
This is
Cuba,
an insane monarchy dictatorship. I don't know what you're talking about.
Is this a new idea, or is this
oh my
new?
god, who could
Did
have
they
thought of
just
this?
invent this?
Throughout Latin America, feminism manifests largely in like the mother role. Women are at the forefront of many movements, but they're at the forefront of movements, particularly in like the readiness to prepare, the readiness to help, the readiness to aid. They're oh god, I wish I could remember the specific name of the group. It's a translation, which is why I'm having trouble, but there are across several countries specific organizations that are just mothers of martyrs, essentially. Some of them specifically women. I believe in Guatemala and Mexico there are specific organizations that are mothers of missing and potentially murdered women and girls, and then other countries have a lot of activism from the mothers of men, young men and women who are just victims of violence throughout the country, or victims of imperial violence or state violence, whatever it may be. The role of women is much more flexible anywhere outside of like the US and to an extent Western Europe. There's the role of woman is much more, I think, like spiritual, if we want to go there, but also like malleable.
I love it how Marxists try to convince me how good people are still. I want to believe. I want to believe.
It's not even, well, I think it's not even like, it's just not breaking things down into this metaphysical realm where human nature is this fixed set thing where the strong will always dominate the weak. Because again, those are social, like Angie's saying, those are social categories that you need to place in the context of the means of production. So like feudalism, ends. And the thing what we know now about feudal peasants is that their lives, they obviously weren't great, but in some ways they were a lot better than what we think they were. Like they had a lot more free time. There was more equality amongst, people who were toiling the land. And I think people forget.
From the women's perspective, really quickly before we move on from the feudal age, from the women's perspective, women had access to birth control. Midwives were the primary caregivers in terms of women's health care. Generally, like it was women giving healthcare to other women. The level of agency and autonomy that women had in the feudal era, we maybe haven't had, like with the exception of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it's Silvia Federici, right? Writes about that extensively. Yeah. Caliban and the Witch, if anybody here.
Yes, okay. Exactly.
Yeah, Caliban and the Witch, if anyone wants, or you can go and check out Brett's episode on her. What was I going to? Oh, but even the peasant rebellion in England was sparked by the rampant sexual abuse that the landlords enacted on the women who worked the land. And it was fine. It just took one man to be like, that's enough. You're not touching my wife again, for that whole class revolt to spark. So I do think, when it comes to warfare, it's always the domineering class pulling the strings. But there are those brief moments in history where the oppressed class recognizes its position with the utmost clarity and does act on it. But at the end of the day, I think that the fact that they don't always have that lucidity doesn't mean that isn't still the primary contradiction, if that makes any sense. So I think, when it comes to humanity as a whole, I think the capitalists want us to think that this is the natural course of things, that capitalism is just as natural as the right of kings and, feudalism was, and that humans, there will always be winners and losers in society. But
so not animals, not bad animals, just animals with some bad habits that they picked up over a long
I need like a Jung jar. Every time I bring up Jung, I have to like put in $5 in the Jung
For those
jar.
of you at home, every time Angie mentions Young or Mormons, take a shot.
Is she talking about Brigham Young? Because that was
Okay, Jay,
Carl.
Jay,
Carl.
either J or Y Young, take a shot. or a hit of your pen for those of you in Germany. Take a hit of your pen or take a shot at home.
Say
He
who?
has
What?
a really good framework of understanding human nature because in his break with Freud is like everyone sucks and everyone just cares about sex and life is shit. Good night.
Yeah.
And he like snorts a line or smokes a pipe or something.
And everything's a dick.
Yes. But Jung, he looks at that and he's like, I don't know. So he kind of rethinks the entire sex idea from Jung or from Freud, where Jung interprets the unconscious as like using symbols. So where Freud is like, that sex dream is about your mom. Jung is like, maybe you have issues with women. But he identifies that human nature has everything in it. Because in order for like it to manifest in our world, we have to be capable of it. So we are both like good and bad, good and evil, light and dark, like all of these things, cruel and patient, merciful and whatever. Like we are all of those things, but then it is however our psyche is socialized throughout those key years of individuation is what's going to kind of like lock into our psyche which parts of ourself we are supposed to repress and which parts of ourself we're supposed to enact. So for someone who's like growing up and like yes sirring the Western order, they're going to be emphasizing their rationality, their scientific thinking. They're going to be repressing anything that's like intuition based, anything that's like a man is going to be deeply repressing his anima or the feminine part of his psyche. The shadow self is going to be completely repressed. And I mean, the episode that I did with Rev Left about Jung, we go really deep into like what the left's shadow looks like right now. And frankly, I think it looks like misogyny, but it's like whatever you aren't willing to see in yourself but still find repulsive in others is still enacting there. And that is where I think human evil comes from, is because the peasant sees the evil in his master, right? But he is not able to divorce the evil of his master from the wealth of his master. So he is able to like condemn the work of his master, the wealth of his master, but he's not able to repress his own desire to become master. Because that's what's modeled to him as the final form of man.
And that's something that Fanon said too, right?
Right.
Fanon explicitly said deeply the colonized secretly wants to be the colonizer. Because again, those are the power dynamics that are presented to him. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Freud also just had more conservative politics than Jung did too, correct? I don't know what Jung's politics were, but
some of it came, no, I'm thinking of Nietzsche. You're right. Nietzsche was like, his sister was a Nazi and then he died. And his sister was like, no, he was a Nazi too, trust me. And we're like, okay. Freud was definitely more conservative. He was just an older guy. He was also just like kind of an egomaniac from everyone else's account of him.
And according to A Dangerous Method, Jung was just a lot hotter than Freud anyway. So according to that movie,
I think what they said both had merit. I mean, you could apply some of what Freud said to a lot of things. And I don't think he was wrong. I think you have a spectrum of people. I think Jung was probably a little bit more optimistic, right?
Not really. Jung just saw things differently. Freud took things very literally. So for Freud, he defined the libido as sexual energy, explicitly, the sexual energy of the psyche. But he also saw that as like the exclusive energy of the psyche. So anything going on in our unconscious is
well, sexual. Sure. Everybody's got,
But I mean, like, it wasn't that he saw it as like what we in 2026 see as sex, but like he Jung reimagines the libido as just psychic energy, like the value that we ascribe to concepts in our psyche. And he's able to take things much more symbolically and ascribe a lot more interpretation to things. For example, I believe incest was the issue that Freud and Jung disagreed the most about in terms of dream analysis, because Freud saw any presentation of incest in dreams as like, you want to fuck your mom, dude, I'm sorry, like,
Yeah.
get help.
But still, the understanding of a subconscious that we still kind of that's something that he came up with that we still use today.
To an extent, yeah, the unconscious of like the individual. To be fair, like Freud definitely built the foundation of what is now therapy and like psychology, to my dismay. In a better world,
It's
Freud
funny that
Han.
the guy that was worried about like phallic objects spent most of his life with a fucking cigar in his mouth, and that's what killed him. It's also quite the
There is a poetic irony to that. But to be fair, I mean, modern psychotherapy has more or less evolved from Freud's psychoanalytic sessions. But
Totally.
I mean, there's still like the upper crust of New York that will pay like $300 a session to have a Freudian psychoanalyst because someone in their bridge club said that
the daughter. Well, Bernays, right? The nephew came to America and then started the propaganda, movement, the PR movement. And then the daughter came and started the psychoanalysis thing. And then that turned into the antidepressant thing, that a lot of that work, that foundation was based and used to launch Prozac in like the 90s, 93 or something like this.
And frankly, like the whole reason behind it is because Jung was just such a thinker. My man was just like sitting and doodling for 10 years before he published anything. And I respect it, but also now I can't find a therapist. So
yeah.
What's that picture he drew of the dragon? What's that book? The little red book.
There's a few dragon pictures. Like, is it the Ouroboros or a different one?
Yeah, I think I'd have to. Chris, can you pull up? Just Google young dragon pictures, and you'll see all the little dragon doodles he did while he was just like sitting on the Rhine, just like fishing and doodling. But is there like, why aren't we seeing more of Jungian thought like being taught in like psychology, psychotherapy training, or like grad degrees? Like, I mean, I have an undergrad in psychology, and most of it's fairly useless, but.
Mainly, if I had to give you like a really honest answer, it's because like a semester of Jung is not enough. I don't know how you would like without the issue is that the entirety of psychology and psychotherapy and psychiatry as it exists now is structured around the like profit-based apparatus of healthcare rather than the like tenets that even Freud would have stood by when it comes to what psychotherapy should be. So I think that there are some like, I don't know really how to put it other than like, it would be too expensive to train Jungian analysts. Like it would be too expensive to train people who are like familiar with the mythology of every nation, who are familiar with like who are taking time, who are taking potentially hours with each client just to sit and go through one dream. Like it's an incredibly expensive training for a society that has so thoroughly devalued the humanities and like the invisible arts, if you will.
Sounds like a Harry Potter thing.
It does, but like I didn't know how else to put it. Like
I just thought there's something just natural anyway about talking to somebody about your feelings or whatever, about whatever's on your mind. It's just always made sense to me as a kid. Like I understood this. So
Well, Jungian psychotherapy is different because he comes up with the idea of amplification, which is where the role of the analyst is to look at your dream or look at whatever scenario you've brought to them and say, well, okay, I see this thing. Maybe you had a dream where you're in a horse-drawn carriage and you're going over hills really, really fast and you can't control the horses. Like it's a nightmare where you're just out of control. He will say, okay, I see hills, I see horses, I see a lack of control, I see maybe trees, maybe whatever ecology. If there's a landmark in the dream, the analyst's role is to say, I see these things. What of them holds significance for you? Or what associations do you have with each of them? And the amplification is the analyst then going out from each of your answers as the dreamer or the experiencer, whatever we want to call it. Like if you say, oh my God, I grew up in an area that's really hilly and we used to have to like go up and down the hills on our way to school every day. There's
forcing you to analyze each little detail that comes out.
Exactly. To
analyze each one.
Amplify the impact and the psychological meaning of each of these images into what it could mean as a full like sentence. If you had to turn this dream into a sentence, what is it telling you?
Someone in the chat just said something interesting. There's a movement in Czechoslovakia that's been happening for about a decade and runs a Jungian therapy center. I didn't know that. Some of their friends work there.
What do they do there? They amplify you?
That's so awesome. I thought that they were training, but I don't know for sure. I thought that it was like a training center.
I mean, I know Czechoslovakia is one of the like easiest countries you can get citizenship to because, you know.
I have my best friend who lives in Lebanon is lucky enough to have a Jungian psychotherapist in Beirut. And I'm like, girl.
What?
Right?
Why can't you get some like a computer to just do that and say every time you say something like I went down to the store with my bike and he's like, what kind of bike did you have? And he just does that.
Well, first off, I would never trust a computer with my information. Oh my God, the concept of like telling my dreams to AI. Second off, I know that this isn't okay in like a real clinical perspective, but I don't feel comfortable just like throwing my dreams to anyone. I would much rather like journal myself and then sit there and research and read and like see what I can figure out on my own rather than like outsource to Gemini or Claude.
What's funny is like the funny is I'm the opposite
because my dreams through a Jungian analysis.
Yeah. I'm the opposite because this is my therapy and I'm just broadcasting it to everyone who will listen. I'm actually just trying to monetize my mental illness, but
hey, you're upfront about it. That's what everybody who's an influencer does, but they make it seem like they're just cool and hip and well-adjusted.
I don't need young. I analyze myself all the time. I know that I'm not special.
But something I
would tell you that you are.
I tell people all the time, they were like, why is he so confident? I was like, the only reason I'm confident is because I know I don't matter at all. And I could pretty much just be myself and nobody will care.
I mean, but that's also sort of, you know, a Jungian perspective in its own way, in that you see yourself as part of a collective unconscious. As
I kind of do. Like, well, deep down, you know, everybody like me who's a misanthropic little grump, we really actually are disillusioned people that wanted things to work out well, you know. George Carlin was one of my favorite people growing up, and he was exactly like that. He's very sweet in his philosophies, but very fucked up when he goes, I just love this kind of grumpy old man. I've been studying my whole life to be a grumpy old man, and I'm like halfway there. By the time I make it, I will be so good. I'm going to be eating onions in my front yard like an apple while
like Shrek.
Yelling at children to pull their pants up. Yeah.
Angie, Are you laughing at
I am being called a new age occult mystic by the same person who, like several comments earlier, was telling me that I'm exclusively made to procreate by a male of my same species. Really funny. So maybe relax, like maybe
I get
chill
all
just a
types
little
here.
bit on those.
If you think Jung is a new age cult mystic, I don't. Is
That
this part of some?
we were talking about Byzantine alchemy earlier. That
Oh, I
motherfucker was
missed it.
reading Byzantine alchemy like his life depended on it. He was like, maybe the soul is gold.
Wait, is that real? Did he?
Yes. Most of the like spiritual interpretations of alchemy are 100% Jungian. They're like modern. They're not original interpretations of alchemy. The idea of like the soul as gold, they meant it literally. Like they were mostly doing physical sciences and what would eventually become chemistry. But Jung kind of takes the symbology of alchemy and ascribes it to individuation. So a lot of like new age alchemy talks about the individuation of the soul, but that's just like appropriating both ancient alchemy and Jung,
So
both
where
in the
did
wrong way.
Jung stand on Descartes then in the idea that the pineal gland is like the seat of the soul, or that there was
It's pronounced Descartes.
Descartes, Descartes.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I can't recall if I've ever read anything where he addresses it specifically. I can't imagine that he would have, because for Jung, the soul was the collective unconscious. Like I remember for him in Man and His Symbols, the introduction to it, he's writing about how the loss of the soul is specifically the loss of our connection to the unconscious, our inability to interpret the communications of the unconscious with our conscious mind. So I don't really think that he would have done a lot of like meaningful engagement with Descartes, just because, like, first of all, fuck Descartes. Like, I don't know. Me personally, I don't think your best philosophy is going to be written like from the tub while you're grieving the death of your child. I'm so sorry, Renee. Like, that's not how it was going to happen for you.
Well, that's why you go the Jean-Jacques Rousseau route and you abandon your children, you commit them to orphanages. To never have to worry about them at all, and just write about how humans are naturally, good. It's society that corrupts them.
And you still manage to be the best Enlightenment philosopher. You know what?
But here's our boy Jung here. He looks old there. I wonder when that picture was taken.
There's something about this picture makes him look smart, and I don't know what it is.
I believe
Like he's an
this is,
educated man.
after the publication, maybe not the publication, but like the first binding of his Liber Novus, the Red Book, is being photographed towards the end of his life. I think that that's after the death of his wife, where like the Liber Novus is all of his dream journals and like free association writings and whatnot from his kind of like anxiety breakdown in the pre-World War I era when he's like breaking with Freud. So he finally kind of puts it all together. But I don't think that it was publicly released until really the 90s, even early 2000s.
I don't even think it was released in English fully until
like
the
2020, I think.
Yeah, it was late. I tried finding a copy in high school and I couldn't. I found a PDF in German, and that was in a pre-AI age where you can just translate everything with the click of a button. That was a nightmare. But I'm also curious because I've always seen so much overlap between Jung and Joseph Campbell. And if anybody here has ever taken a screenwriting class or watched a documentary about Star Wars, you know who Joseph Campbell is, because after George Lucas made Flash Gordon in space, and he was like, oh, actually, I based it off of Joseph Campbell because I'm a smart guy. You know that he's the man who wrote The Hero 1,000 Faces, like literally just the same idea that there's the monomyth that we all share. I guess, did Joseph Campbell Did Young ever put Joseph Campbell's work on his radar, or was he like, this dude is a charlatan? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just reading about this guy.
Oh, you never heard of
Joseph John Campbell.
I would have to
Yeah.
do a little bit of like specific reading on Jung to see if he ever like noted him specifically.
It's a lot of the same premises as Young, Chris. It's like literally, there was a memo that went out to like the entire Disney department in the 90s being like, this is how you write a story. And it's literally just taken beat for beat from The Hero with a Thousand Faces in terms of like where the story is supposed to go, and when like the hero is supposed to reject the call to action, then he slays the dragon or overcomes and surmounts the challenge, and it's literally,
he wrote the formulation for a modern mythos, or
like the modern hero's journey, essentially.
The modern Marvel movie.
The Marvel George, the reason screenwriters really seized upon it was because George Lucas said that was the entire formation of Star Wars, that he took all the archetypes.
It's like a Nazi thing about a Superman. They're obsessed with a Superman.
Yeah, well, that's also Joseph Campbell had some really weird reactionary politics. Like he wrote, like after World War II was announced, he basically wrote about how great Germany was and how we shouldn't betray the great Germany, the great thinkers of Germany, and they're a noble people, a strong race, et cetera, et cetera. He also taught at a women's college at one point, which is particularly funny because a lot of his work is also centered on how, like our dear friend in the chat here was saying, that women are just meant to procreate and, feel a subservient role to man.
Yeah.
He relies a lot on very strange archetypes in a way that, like, he was an anthropologist. Young was a psychologist, obviously, but when it comes to Joseph Campbell, he also had like a big presence. Like, here you go. Yeah. Joseph Campbell. He is a very good orator. I will say that when you watch him speak, he is very magnetic. He and Bill Moyers did a whole thing on PBS in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, see, when Oswald Spengler is listed as one of your influences, confusingly alongside Karl Marx, I don't know where he's getting
Nietzsche,
Schopenhauer,
Freud, Jung,
Schopenhauer,
James Joyce.
He was a Joyce scholar. He literally wrote something called A Skeleton's Key to Ulysses.
He wrote that book to just piss everybody off. Or is that the one I'm thinking about?
Ulysses.
That's the big gibberish one, right?
Yes. Well, do you have any idea how much that narrows it down when you say a big gibberish thing in James Joyce?
Was it Finnegan's Wake? Which one was?
I think they're both equally esoteric and hard to decipher.
Yeah, purposefully verbose and challenging.
I will say it's interesting to see, because you know who else influenced Spengler? I've never been able to prove this definitively. Is
there he is with Kenny Loggins. McCarthy.
What?
There he is with Kenny Loggins. Sorry, go on.
Wait, really? Oh,
I'm just kidding.
I don't know who Jonathan Young is.
He just looked like a soft rock guy from the 70s who might be in a hot tub with that beard.
Hold on. We have a new one. We are animals, period. Procreation is our quote unquote job. That means hooking up with someone of opposite sex. We are not here for our dreams.
Okay. I have to say this really quick, unfortunately, just because I have to hop off here at 9:30.
Yeah.
Procreation, technically, even in the animal, like I'm going to debase myself to lower myself to the level of this argument. Procreation technically wouldn't be our job. Evolution would be our job. So in a world where there is already enough evolutionary capacity met, not all of us would be obligated to procreate. Just thoughts.
There's actually examples in the animal kingdom where some animals just don't,
Also, like bonobos are having lesbian sex constantly, mainly to punish the men because they pissed them off.
You mean the Trojan woman in the bonobo world?
I've seen those bonobos.
Strata with bonobos.
No, like my psychology degree, they made us take an anthropology course in like human origins. And it was all just like, we did one little section on the Neanderthals and that kind of vibe, that era. And then it was all monkeys. We just fucked with the monkeys. Bonobos, if you're watching this, I'm your biggest fan.
Most of the people in the chat are actually bonobos, if you didn't know that.
I mean, with the logic about
they wish they were bonobos.
Bonobos
They
would have
haven't
more
made-
class than that.
Yeah, they would.
But bonobos are
Yeah.
actually more free than humans in that they can literally just they can just lounge about and have the freakiest sex all day.
No, like Adam, the men come back and they haven't brought food. And so the women bonobos make them stay in one tree while they go fuck in the other tree to be like,
The old switcheroo.
bringing
This
us
sounds it sounds like a cucked erotica scenario.
I've
Like,
seen this. I saw this video on the internet. I did.
yeah, like
I
this is
did.
like a browser's some bonobo cucked porn. Like, he didn't come back with any mangoes, so I made him watch while I got on with the neighbor's wife.
What is this lowbrow programming we're putting out here?
Hey, it is weird.
Notice,
You guys
notice
you
how
guys
the
are over
bonobos
here.
don't eat porn.
You guys are over here talking about 2 chimps, 1 cup. I can't have this on my program.
Hey, they're bonobos. They're not chimps. Chimps are filthy, nasty creatures. Bonobos are the true enlightened. The bonobos are what
Hey,
enlightenment.
Lesbians
That's
are the
true.
forefront of every movement. Please don't denigrate the bonobo.
Any
Bonobos are-
lesbian of any species is okay with me.
But that's also why, I have a friend, I think I told you, who's studying biological anthropology at Columbia. And she, again, I think the general knowledge the general public has about any topic is always oversimplified. When it comes to something like biology, we really need to examine the nitty gritty because that's where things are way more complex than what we've been told is common sense. The same thing when you study quantum physics and you realize that the rules you were taught don't actually apply. It's the same thing when you delve deep into something like anthropology, like the religious zealot in the chat who's saying that humans and especially women are only here to procreate and churn out babies. That's not even on a biological, anthropological level true, but it's just the myth that these cultures sell us because it fits the worldview that was crafted to a specific point in time.
There's plenty of spinster armadillos, spinster spiders, spinster, raccoons. Some people just aren't interested, and it transcends. I've seen it, definitely. So it's not that crazy. Also, you guys should check out, this is one of the most interesting things if you're into biology and stuff like this. There was the mouse experiment, right? Experiment 43. The guy put all the mice in the enclosure, gave them enough food, overpopulated. They bred until they had max capacity, and bizarre behavior started to come out of it. Like the women mice stopped breeding with the men. And there was some smaller mice who could go between the men and the women who would just spend all day getting groomed. And so they stopped procreating altogether and they just started grooming each other. And eventually they died out slowly. This is one of the most fascinating studies on overpopulation that's ever been done in the animal mouse model. But a lot of people say, oh, it's not accurate. And of course, it doesn't apply to humans because there's so many underlying abstractions on top of our society and technology and everything like this. So it wouldn't be exactly that. But I will say that I did see correlations in it, in the idea that they had the mice that could go between the males and the females, they called the beautiful ones. And they spent all day grooming themselves. It reminds me of the people who go to the gym now and just worry about how good they look, but don't, I think there's plenty of similarities in this study to, it's worth a read.
Swingers.
Anyway. Sure.
I was gonna say the male-oriented gym bro who's definitely building up his muscles for other men.
Just
and women.
like always looking in the mirror and a little bit too groomed, and like if you shave your bush as a man, then that might yet be you. Yeah.
But also we'll make sure when they drop a weight that's too heavy for them, they will like make that terrible vocalization as loud as possible, so everybody has to stop and look. Oh, cool! You dropped 400 pounds on your deadlift. Anyway,
yeah. So what? You got to go, Angie? What's the rush? Where's the fire?
I do, unfortunately. I'm off to get on my calls with Syria.
Nice. Look, bring the whole crew next time. Bring all the Syrians and
most of them are too scared to speak publicly right now. Sorry.
You don't have to go to therapy because now we know what your kinks are. It's Carl Jung, old psychiatrist guys that look like Colonel Sanders, and
don't talk about him that way. Don't do
that
to
you just like seriously offended her with that, as if
I'm just kidding. I like him. I like him. He's
earlier when Adam was like, yeah, he was like the more handsome of the two. I was like, yeah, like as a woman, I have to throw my hat in the Jung tray.
But also that
what a
movie,
mustache.
a dangerous method, the one with Michael Fassbender where he plays Jung. You know what I'm talking about? That's like, I forget who plays. And Keira Knightley plays the woman who, for like the patient for both of their affections. It's a weird movie, Chris.
I never saw that.
I see.
It's a weird movie.
I meant it from just like a factual. I think historically, Jung was objectively hotter. And for those of you who that matters for,
hotties and naughties.
Jung is the man that we all wished for.
Hotties and naughties. Friedrich Engels or Karl Marx.
Yeah.
Hotties
this is our. We're going to start a segment. We're going to start a
segment.
Hotties or naughties, and we're going to do historical figures like Brezhnev or Golda Meir. Who would you bang?
I mean, on the sheer...
We need to do like a fuck, marry, kill.
World leaders from circa 1963. Specifically,
I actually think like a philosophical writers, like you throw Nietzsche in, and I feel like Nietzsche could be any one of those, depending on who's in the group with him.
Angie, I'm sorry, I have to go too, but I have one last anecdote for everybody here that I have to tell you before I leave. So I was this is going to surprise everybody. In college, I was in a Marxist reading group with a bunch of grad students. I was an undergrad. And this guy was like, he came in and he's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, why? What's wrong? He goes, one of my friends is TAing for a women in philosophy course, and he's just teaching them Nietzsche. And I was like, no. For those of you who don't know, Nietzsche is one of the most rampantly nakedly misogynistic, because every woman he ever loved hated him, so he was just like one of the worst like misogynists you could ever imagine. We went in philosophy, and he just like he was like getting ready to teach them a whole like 3-week section on Nietzsche.
Oh no. That's when you want to justify it. If you want to justify atrocities, go with Nietzsche. Yeah.
At a certain point, you just like start teaching them like female fiction writers from the 1900s. Like you teach them Shirley Jackson, and that's better. Fuck. Oh my God.
Stephanie Meyer over Nietzsche at this point. Let's.
All right, y'all. Fuck, marry, kill next time. Look forward to that. We're gonna sign off now. Make sure you pay us money and come back next Sunday, and we'll give you a good time. All right. Stick around, you guys. I'll talk to you before we go. Figure